waiting another minute, is there anybody that's on the phone only and not on the computer? We can largely take attendance by the computer unless there's anybody that's phone only today.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, I'm phone only. I'm from Valley Children. This is Sai.
Hey there. Thanks for calling in.
I was having some trouble with the computer. It has to install and stuff, so I figured I would just do phone for now.
Yes, we don't have any amazing graphics, so you're not missing much.
Okay, good to know.
Anyone else that's phone only?
Rady Children's Hospital from San Diego.
Oh, great. Well, let's get started. Thanks to all of you for joining our monthly combined call. We can start with the next slide. We have a short agenda today, quite intentionally, and we do want to leave time at the end for office hours to discuss whatever sort of issues or topics you all are facing in the trenches at your sites. So we're going to do a quick update of where we're at with site activation and participant recruitment. We'll talk a little bit about updates from our engagement/recruitment SWAT team, a few sort of general study tips and questions that have come up over the last few weeks that I think will be of interest to all of our sites. And then again, we'll open it up to you all for any items that you think are of interest to our larger combined family. Next slide. So in general, we have 42 sites selected and 35 activated, and the remaining 7 are really close. We have most of those IRBs out of the way and a little bit more to be done on the contracts, but super close. So it's great to see our combined family growing, and I know many of the next generation centers like Valley and San Diego are already on the call, which is great. As of last week, we had 135 patients randomized, and I know of several more this week already, including one at our center. So we are now a third of the way done with our recruitment, still 2/3 to go. I think we will definitely have a boost by the new centers that we are activating. And I think our current centers, as you'll see on the next slide, hopefully we can, for many of our current centers, kick it up a notch or 2 as well. Our lead centers are Cincinnati Children's and the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughter, who are neck and neck at 13 and 12 as of last week, although who knows, potentially that has budged a bit this week as well. I know Cincinnati was working on a additional one. Next slide. And so again, this graph here shows our recruitment by site. The graph keeps getting wider and wider as we add new sites who have been recruiting patients to the mix. Towards the left here, you can see the centers that are really hitting it out of the park, including those in the double digits. In addition to the shout outs to Cincinnati and the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughter, I will also mention that Stanford has really come on strong over the first part of 2018. They're kind of like Alexander Hamilton, nonstop. And we have a number of those sites to the right where things are moving, but potentially we can do a bit more. And Shazad and Julie Massey and the SWAT team will likely be reaching out to you guys as well. Next slide. And Shazad, I'll let you continue from here.
Thank you, Mike. So as Mike shared on the previous slide, we have 31 out of the 35 active sites are recruiting. 4 sites are somewhat inactive due to transitioning of research coordinators and other issues related to staffing. Of the 31 active sites, 75% of the sites have either approached or consented a patient in 2018, which is the last couple of months. This is awesome. But there are 25% of the sites that have not approached any patient in 2018, and of these, 20% or 6 out of the 31 sites have not consented a patient in last 4 months. So not only that they are not active in the early part of this year or the first 3 months of this year, they have been fairly inactive in the last part of the last year as well. So there may be some opportunities that we may need to think about approach and consent on those specific sites. 35% of the sites have randomized more than 5 patients at their site. So they are the sites, as you saw from the last graph, who are carrying the major burden of patient recruitment and consenting and randomization of the whole trial. And while they are awesome and they are great, but I think we need to make sure that they are supported by the rest of the sites as well, because this may not be a sustainable process. Of these sites that we sort of just talked about, 1 site has not even approached or consented a patient in the last 6 months or so, and another site has not approached any patient since being activated 3 to 4 months ago. So those sites may also need to review their process and see what are the opportunities that they need to revisit. One of the sites has had, again, staff transition, and that may be related to the inactivity, but the other site has not shared any staff transitioning. So it may be really, really worthwhile to revisit the process and approach for these sites. Next slide, please. So based on this data, we also did somewhat of an assessment of some of the specific sites, and it turns out that one of the least likely to be used tools for approaching patients is the combined trial video. And it really would love for people who are on the call to give us some feedback if they have used that video, or if they have not used that video. I would highly encourage that to use that as you're approaching a patient, because it really sets the tone and addresses some of the concerns that the families have about participating in an intervention trial. We did a Pareto of the sites for the reasons of not consenting, and one of the major reasons that the parents are giving is their discomfort with clinical trials and or concerns about participating in experimental medications. And that video really, if used appropriately, addresses that specific concern and question. So I think I would highly encourage sites to think about this. This video can be found on the Combined Trial website at combinedtrial.org. We will make sure that it's also on the SharePoint site. As I said, it could be a very useful tool to explain the rationale of the study. And if you're using it, please give us feedback. How's that working? Next slide. Another opportunity that sort of has cropped up during our specific reach out to different sites was the realization that there are a number of sites who don't have a regular process of reviewing and tracking progress about the trial at their site. And again, that's a really best practice that will keep the research team engaged, activated, and it's a neat way to make sure that you're keeping up with all the requirements for conducting the trial. So the Dayton team, and kudos to the Dayton team, has come up with this tool that we will be sharing later on with all the combined sites. And it actually sort of hardwires this process of regular progress assessment. What is happening in the past, what is old business, any new patients that are being sort of considered, any adverse events, any regulatory requirements that need to be addressed, safety reports, any visits that are upcoming for those recruited patients, and drug accountability logs, and any backdrops for financial requirements for the study of the trial. Additional information or other things. We have used this to develop a warm handoff between the primary GI person for whom the patient is being considered to the research team. Other opportunities to hardwire and look for patients who are starting anti-TNF for their disease. So please utilize this. It's a good tool, and let us know how it works. Next slide. And I think I'm done with my part. Yep. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you. So a few other updates. So we've had some participants, a small number, but a growing number across all of our sites, who either decided to stop study medications for one reason or another in the absence of meeting a protocol-defined outcome, or have decided to withdraw from the study altogether. As all of you know, retention is crucial to the success of any long-term study. And so this is my opportunity to beg all of you at your sites to do everything you can to encourage each patient and family to complete the 2 years of follow-up. Ideally, to complete the 2 years of follow-up while remaining on study medication. We get that adherence may be, maybe what it is, and that not everyone is perfectly adherent, but we would like for patients to stick with us for the 2 years. If for some reason they decide that they just don't want to take study medication anymore, for whatever reason that is, we still would encourage them to stay with us for the 2 years of follow-up as second best. But when patients withdraw or are completely lost to follow-up, it definitely hurts us. And so you can use all of the clinic visits as an opportunity to remind patients about the value of Combine, thank them for their participation. Right, they're getting nothing out of Combine other than altruism and knowing that they're helping that next generation of patients. We don't have a special drug that we can only get through the study. Methotrexate can be prescribed by any clinician, and so really the motivation for all of our participants is to make things better and get an answer to this question. So we should thank patients for that, and proactively use that time to address any concerns that they may have. We've heard from the study pharmacist when they are confirming the delivery details for renewals that patients have decided to stop study medication or are withdrawing from the study, and we really should be hearing that from the sites, and we hope that sites are having those relationships with the participants. It's sort of embarrassing to hear it from the pharmacist when the site was unaware to begin with. And it's just an opportunity, like Shahzad was saying earlier, for all of the site PIs and coordinators and other clinicians and nurses and staff to work together so that we can deliver clear, consistent messages to all of our participants and their families. Next slide. Another sort of series of questions have come up about one of our study endpoints, and I just wanted to give clarity around the endpoint that reads in the protocol as SPCDAI greater than or equal to 15, indicating active disease at 2 or more consecutive visits beyond the week 26 visit. So we get that every patient's course may be a little bit rocky as they're starting out on anti-TNF and starting out on Combine. We give patients up until that 26-week visit to achieve remission, and then beyond that, if there are 2 or more visits where the patient is not in remission, we consider them as treatment failures and having met a study endpoint. The only caveat to that is that we do recognize that many patients can have a slightly elevated SPDAI score for a number of reasons not related to Crohn's disease. Maybe they have an infection. It's been a particularly bad year for flu. Maybe they've got constipation causing abdominal pain or irritable bowel syndrome. These are non-IBD reasons and do not constitute a combined endpoint. You'll note that on the case report form, there is a question that says, does the physician think that the patient is in remission despite having an elevated SPCDAI score? If the answer to that question is yes, then the patient is not considered to have met the outcome, even if their SPDAI score may be greater than or equal to 15. So I hope all of that is clear, but please do let us know if you have any questions. And as a matter of fact, I'll stop for a moment right now and see if anyone has any questions or comments related to this. And if you are talking and on mute, we may not be hearing you. So do take yourself off of mute and let me know if we need to clarify this further. All right, hearing nothing, we can move on to the next slide. Another sort of clarification about how to work the electronic data capture system. As you all know, when a patient is changing the dose of medication for any reason or stopping medication entirely, you can go on to the electronic data capture system and complete that dose change form, have the study physician sign off on it, and that essentially acts as a script to the study pharmacy. If you're intending to discontinue study medication entirely, like because a patient has met a endpoint, by discontinuing the methotrexate or placebo, it automatically discontinues the Zofran or placebo and the folic acid as well. There is no need to separately fill out a discontinuation form for the Zofran and placebo. Only one form is necessary, and in fact, if you complete it for the methotrexate and placebo and then complete it for the Zofran and placebo, it actually confuses the pharmacy in the notification systems. And if by chance you aren't sure whether you did this correctly or you entered a incorrect value, please reach out to the Improved Care Now help desk at the email indicated on this slide and ask for assistance or direction. As a matter of fact, once that dose change form is entered by the coordinator, even if the PI doesn't sign off on it, it becomes locked and can't be changed without emailing the help desk. Next slide. And again, this is our last slide for the formal agenda, just a reminder of who's who with Combine. We will send this out to you with all of the slides, and this is all available on the SharePoint site as well. The only change from last month is that our UNC-based project manager has left, and we are in the process of replacing her actually probably next week with a new project manager, and I'll be introducing her to all of you by email in the near future. But for all of your needs, we've got a contact who is listed here. So with that, next slide. I think we will stop the formal portion of our talk. As always, I'd like to thank you for all of your commitments to making this trial a success. As you know, this really is it takes a village to get a trial like this done, and you all are our village, and I am very grateful for that. And we will leave the last 10 minutes to answer any questions or comments that have come up from the field. If you all have encountered any interesting patients or have any interesting stories to tell about eligibility, please use this time to comment on anything. And just a reminder to take yourselves off of mute before talking.
Hi, this is Katie from Cincinnati.
Hey.
Hello. I just had a quick question about if I thought I'd heard at one point there was going to be an upcoming amendment. A while back, I thought you were considering changing some of the inclusion-exclusion criteria, specifically the BMI. I didn't know if there's any talk of that.
Yes,
coming up.
the BMI criteria will be changed from greater than or equal to 95% to greater than or equal to, I believe it's 98%. And until that happens, if you have someone who's on the bubble, let me know. The Cincinnati Central IRB has a sort of one-off sort of exception process that they grant for that. We've done that for another site as well. So that inclusion criteria will be softened slightly. The other one, we will also be changing the 35 days after anti-TNF to 42 days after starting anti-TNF window to get patients in the study.
Okay, and if we enroll anybody on Inflectra, do we need to notify you?
Nope, nothing different. The protocol states infliximab, and Inflectra is a type of infliximab, just like Remicade is, and Remicima, and all of the others. So you are good to go. Don't need to do anything. We have language in the upcoming protocol amendment that further clarifies that biosimilars are the same as originators, but until then, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Great questions. Anything else from the group that we could clarify? Any interesting situations you've encountered?
Hi, this is Kim at Nemours, Wilmington.
Hey.
I'm sure this answer can be found somewhere in the paperwork somewhere, but I figured while I'm on the phone, I'll just ask it. Once the patients complete their 2 years, will they be able to be unblinded so that the physician
Yes.
knows how to? Okay.
Yes, we will let the study team know which treatment assignment that patient was assigned to, because we anticipate that they may want to continue on that treatment assignment, whatever it was.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And the amazing thing is that they are also part of the Improved Care Now registry, so we will be able to collect even longer-term data on those patients. So rather than having a 2-year study, we may have a 3 or 4 or 5 or 10-year study as time goes on, which is awesome.
Mike, one comment. This is Shazad.
Yeah.
I definitely urge the sites who are on the call to really look at their processes for identification and approaching of patients, and try to hardwire that into your weekly work, and definitely urge the sites to develop a process of our weekly, if not weekly, then every other week progress check, because what we are observing from our assessment of site recruitment and it's pretty apparent that those sites that have that hardwired tend to be much better in identifying patients and approaching patients, and then ultimately consenting them into the study.
Thank you, Shazad. You're definitely right about that, and I think our site is working on re-hardwiring a lot of these processes and convening regular meetings as well on a weekly or every other week basis. So we too at our place have some to learn, and on a fairly regular basis, it probably would be a good practice for the PI and coordinator to communicate out to all of the other clinicians and nurses and staff caring for these patients. Just a reminder of what Combine is, why we're participating, what the eligibility is, the sort of flexibility around protocol and how we're trying to nest this in standard of care. Nurses turnover in practices, new attendings are added, existing people forget, and so having some sort of period of refreshers for the entire team that could be led by the site coordinators and site PIs is probably a good practice as well.
Very true, very true. And our goal was 425 patients, so we do have some ways to go to meet that goal. So anything and everything we can do to get that, it's really appreciated.
All right, we have a few minutes left, and if there are no other comments, we can possibly end a bit early. But what I'm going to ask Michelle JP to do in the meantime, since we're viewing her screen, would be to open up the whatever internet browser she would like and go to combinetrial.org and show everyone where the video is and potentially even hit play. And if you all would like to watch it with us, that would be great. Or if you're heading off to clinic or to lunch and need to scram, that is understandable as well. And we can all see how fast the Cincinnati Children's computers can work. Nice. And you want to just hit play, Michelle?
Can you hear it?
Barely, but at least we know where it is and what it looks like.
Okay.
I think people are also dropping off.
We cannot hear it. Ready Children San Diego. We can see it, but cannot hear it.
Yeah, I am guessing if you go to combinetrial.org, you should be able to hear it. I think it's just my computer settings for the call. I could turn it up really loud, but my neighbors here may not like that.
I think the best thing is just www.combinetrial.org, and you can pull it up on your own computer. We spent a lot of time creating this video. Actually, one of the parents who has been serving as a co-investigator has worked with the production company in, I believe it was LA, to create this. A lot of time and effort went into it. So enjoy it yourselves, and as you get activated, we hope that your patients and families respond well to it. All right, I think we can end as soon as the video is up, but again, thanks again to everyone for calling in today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's over. Bye-bye.